Welcome everybody to episode 8 of the Longball podcast. The off season is over, just like the NL East was on June 1st, Hayden. It is a beautiful day, last day of February. The birds are chirping, balls are being hit, and we are so happy to recap these Major League Baseball off-season moves for all of you guys. I'm Blake, joined by, of course, the best co-host in the damn world, Hayden, also known as Mets Talk with Hayden. We're going to be talking all things American League offseason. So for those that are here for Machado news, for anything that happened in the last 8 or 9 days, beginning of spring training, National League news-wise, will be covered in an episode later this week that's detailing all the National League ball clubs, which includes Hayden and my Braves and his Mets. So Hayden, how was your week? I know you spent some time at Port St. Lucie, saw the Metropolitans, saw Pete Alonso hit a home run right out to your lap. How'd that whole weekend go?
Yeah, no, I had a fun time. A couple of my buddies and I, we met up with the 7 line. We had a fun weekend. Went to the scrimmage game on Friday, got seats right behind home plate. So that was really awesome. Walked around the complex, went to Saturday spring training game, Mets versus Marlins. A really fun weekend overall. Saw all the players up close, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, all the great guys up close. Good to see. Met Omar Narvaez, some of the SNY crew, Gary Cohen, the announcer, a couple of the people that work with SNY, Steve Gelbs, Andy Martino, some of those reporters. It was really all a really fun time, good experience. I tell anyone that lives in Florida or can make the trip down for their spring break or just a weekend, whatever, spring training. It's really a great time. You get the close-up interaction, and it's just, you get to relax. No one really cares about the game. I mean, I was sitting on the berm with some of my friends, and we were just drinking rum buckets, and we weren't paying attention to the game at all. We were just goofing off, just hanging out.
You probably were a little bit. You saw the Alonso homer. I know. You were like,
I was looking up. I saw the Alonso hit. I caught the McNeil hit, a couple of that stuff. But, it was fun. Just walking around, talking to people, really good time. No complaints. I should hopefully be down in Miami for opening day. I'm probably going to make an executive decision, but the 7 line is going down, and a couple of my buddies already said they're going. So we're thinking I will probably be there in attendance. So I'm debating. I'll probably ditch school for that Thursday, and I'll probably go down probably Wednesday afternoon, and I'll probably go to Thursday's opening game, Marlins, Mets at Marlins, and it's a 4-game set. So I don't know if I'll go to more than one. I'll definitely be in Miami, hang out. There's a lot of great things to do in Miami. I'll definitely be at that Thursday one. Maybe I'll go to a second one. I guess we'll kind of see what my financial situation is going to be like then. But super fun weekend and fun month ahead.
Yeah, I think spring training is more about the player stat lines. Like, of course, if you're there in person, you're not going to be cheering for the Mets or the Braves to lose. But yeah, I'm sure you're just making sure the guys all the depth guys, see how they're going. So yeah, I mean, in Braves camp, it's been cool. First game was actually really crazy for us. I'm sure you saw it. We had the called strike 3 to end it in a tie, bases loaded, full count. I'm like, wow, here we are. So that was a rude awakening. The next day, we got 1 hit by the Yankees. Gave up a grand slam on 4 straight hits in the bottom of the first. But yeah, we bounced back with wins the last 2 days over Toronto, and actually today we lost 10-7 to Minnesota. But yeah, we're really just watching how players look and what to look forward to come regular season. So yeah, my week was good. Pretty much chilled at the house. I didn't do a lot. I didn't get a lot done, so I haven't been in the gym. So got to bounce back this week, beginning of March, beginning of the month, right? So yeah, well, welcome everybody into the chat for those that are in here. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get things started with our AL offseason recap. Starting off, we're going to go alphabetical. So starting with the Baltimore Orioles to the Red Sox, White Sox, Guardians, BC, all the way down. So yeah, we'll start off with Baltimore. honestly not the best offseason for them. And Hayden, you and I can kind of take turns recapping their moves if you want, so it's not as stale. Looking at their September moves, of course, they took a flyer on Jesus Aguilar. I don't think they're keeping him around for this next season. They also, I think, really their first big move of the offseason, which I hate to say, is they took a flyer on Frenchie Cordero from the Red Sox, brought him in for some depth. They traded Luis Diaz back and forth between the Braves and Baltimore a couple times this offseason. And that was really it for the calendar year. Of course, they got Michael Givens and James McCann in a trade with you guys. And then flipping over to the 2023 side, really still not a lot going on. Kyle Gibson was a move. Adam Frazier, really not that much, but a team that doesn't spend a lot. They're still like bottom 4 in payroll. What was your initial takeaway to this?
Yeah, I mean, right now the AL East is in a really interesting spot. I mean, we saw the Baltimore Orioles finish a couple games over 500 last season, and that came to complete shock for baseball fans around the world. And right now you look at that division. I mean, you got the Yankees, you got the Blue Jays. The Rays are always going to be relevant. They're just that team that's going to automatically finish above 500. And then, you got the Boston Red Sox, who, we're going to talk about in a little bit, who are also in a kind of a tough spot. They're kind of hit or miss. We'll see. But, yeah, I mean, right now the Orioles are really trying to contend for that, call me crazy, maybe that second or third spot in that AL East division. I do think the McCann trade was interesting. A nice backup catcher. Obviously, Adley Rutschman is going to be the full-time catcher. So, we'll see what a fall 162 game belt looks like under him. He can get some days off. You have McCann. Maybe he can always DH, whatever. Keep in mind, Adley Rutschman didn't start the season on the opening day roster last year. He got called up like mid-May. So it'll be interesting to see what he could do, if he can continue to do great things and thrive. You got Gunnar Henderson, who I think is going to have a great impact. But, yeah, I mean, the three big moves that really stand out for me is Michael Givens, Adam Frazier, and, of course, James McCann. Decent offseason. I mean, if anything, I think they probably could have done a little bit more, but I think right now they didn't really need to spend a whole lot. I really think if they were to do anything, it was probably a big power bat and, maybe some rotation arms. Didn't really do much when it came to both of those. They posted up the bullpen a little bit. Honestly, I would probably give them a solid C, just C flat.
Quite honestly, I would agree. We talked about this in the previous episode. Their payroll isn't huge, but they do have to start spending if they want to keep this core in a couple of years. Like the first guys that are going to be coming up are the Mountcastles, the Mullins, the Santanders of the world, the John Meanses, and I'm sure they're going to want to keep some of those guys going into this win now mode. So yeah, while their payroll is still really small at this point in time, I don't think it's going to stay that way. It doesn't mean it's going to be Mets Steve Cohen level, but I do think that they are going to have to start spending in the next couple of winters. And this is really their last one where they could kind of sit back on their gears, kind of get some more veterans to fine-tune the rest of the prospects that are going to be soon in the majors and really go from there. So what's up to Gio, Hayden's longtime listener, saying salute to us tonight. So salute to you as well, Gio. Hope you had a good month of February, sir. But yeah, their moves really weren't eye-moving, like Gibson, just back at the end of the rotation, veteran to come in, eat some innings, have a couple wins, have a couple good days with the guys. James McCann was really just a throwaway to get your guys, get him off the roster for you guys, and Michael Givens was a nice little treat on top of it, which maybe was more of an enticing move to make Baltimore accept the trade. Yeah, Adam Frazier could be an interesting one, for sure, because, I don't know how much longer they're going to have guys like Roman Urias out there with guys like Grayson and all the other prospects that are soon going to be up at that position. But yeah, I probably have to give them about a C as well. I don't want to go that far into playoff predictions because that will be for the show after the off-season predictions. But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add on the Orioles? Short and sweet. Oh, you see that we're a little rusty because I meant to put this up the whole time, but I didn't. Whoops. Either way, moving on to a rival up north of Baltimore. You got the Boston Red Sox. Had a very, very, very weird offseason, honestly. It's one that I don't get the direction they're going in. Hayden, would you like me to recap, or do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Red Sox, I mean, really the big, I guess, 3, 4 moves that I guess really goes to stand out. I mean, right now the Devers extension I think was a huge move that standed out. I mean, if the Red Sox lost Rafael Devers, then I easily would just say forget it, cut it, just start the rebuild. I mean, that would have been a big blow for the Red Sox, but no, they brought him back. They signed him for this massive mega deal, and I think that will do good stuff for them. I think that was the key highlight of their offseason. They did go after some free agents, some of the notable ones, Justin Turner to a short-term deal for the third base position. Maybe even DH potentially too. Considering you did lose JD Martinez, that was to an extent a little bit of a big blow. You lost JD Martinez, so you replace him with Justin Turner. A couple years older has a little bit older than JD Martinez, I believe. So, we'll see how things go there. He could play some third base, DH. I guess it's a little bit of an upgrade if you're looking at it defensively, considering JD Martinez couldn't really give you much defensively, maybe some reps in left field, but nothing too crazy. So, Justin Turner, you brought him in. Corey Kluber, you brought him into a deal. I think that's a fair move, decent rotation arm. I mean, you look at that Red Sox rotation, and it's not anything too crazy. They got a lot of guys in there who are, I guess, unproven. I guess is the good term to use, whether that's a Pavetta, whoever else. But yeah, unproven guys, and you bring in a nice veteran into that younger, mid-experienced guys. I think that could definitely go a long way. And then Richard Bleier, obviously, obtained him from the Miami Marlins. Interesting guy, kind of an underrated pitcher, in my opinion. The thing with Richard Bleier is he'll have some outings where he'll go out there and look dominant. He'll give you, 3, 4 dominant outings in a row. And then for the next, 4 or 5 outings, he's just going to get a shit rocked. I mean, he's just going to give up, 6, 7 runs in, 1/3 of an inning. So, I mean, that's really where you're looking at with Richard Bleier. Bleier right now is a guy who he'll give you a couple decent innings. Otherwise, yeah, nothing too crazy to say with the Red Sox offseason. I honestly would give them a D. They didn't really do much. They could have, but yeah.
I'm on the same page, and ironically, I'm watching MLB Network in the background just to see if there's any news that flashes while we're on the air. And what's funny is they're about to have spring training coverage of the Marlins and the Red Sox. And guess who's on the bump tonight? Corey Kluber. So I just saw a live shot of him in the background. That's why I went, dude, like, no way. But yeah, the Red Sox. Okay, mini rant here. And for the Red Sox fans that are listening, you're going to hate me saying this, but please listen to the end and trust me. Hayden and I have had this discussion before. You understand where I'm coming from. The Red Sox have to rebuild. They have to. Their farm system isn't great. They're in a very competitive division. They're spending top 10 payrolls every year. A lot of it is on Shane Bloom. He was a guy that was really good out in Tampa. Boston tried to poach him away from a division rival. Tampa's still doing their things, and he is not doing the right things for the Red Sox to win. And the Red Sox have to rebuild. It's best for them in the future. It's best for them long term. And I know Boston is a city that refuses to lose. Hell, the Patriots were 8-9 last year, and you heard them whining every single Sunday. They can't take losing up there, and I understand it. That's a city that only knows how to win. But in the long run, you got the Yankees who are a super squad ahead of you. The Blue Jays and the Rays are better yearly as of right now. Now Baltimore's on the rise. Y'all are on the downswing. It makes too much sense with the amount of money Boston is spending. There's no general direction from Shane Bloom and company. Just rebuild. For the Red Sox fans that are saying, no way, Jose, y'all just won a freaking World Series 4 years ago. You were just in the ALCS 2 years ago. So it's not like you're going to die with a couple bad years of Red Sox ball. You got the Celtics, the Bruins, and the Patriots to keep a company. I think you'll be fine. Fenway will still be a popping spot in the summer. And with how well they develop players, if they do truly go into rebuild mode, it won't take long. It really won't. But yeah, for the Red Sox, the amount of money they're spending and the wins that the seasons that they're getting for it, it just makes no sense. Like as you said, it was great that they were able to lock up Devers, but they lost Bogarts and Mookie for pretty much nothing the last couple of years. JD Martinez, Ben Attendee, Chris Sale is no longer the guy he was. They lost Erod, but then they're also turning around and spending the same profit on guys like Yoshimiti and Kluber and Justin Turner and Kike Hernandez. There's just no sensical movement in the organization. So if I'm the Red Sox, I'm rebuilding. I'm biting the bullet. It'll only take a couple years, and it'll be the best for you guys long term. I say it to my friends from Boston, my family from Boston all the time. They hate me saying it, but I'm saying it with the heart of your future. So it makes the most sense to me. Would you agree with that, Hayden, or no?
Yeah, and I think right now the Red Sox, like you said, they're in a tough spot. I mean, they won a World Series, 5, 6 years ago, just about. It's definitely been some quite amount of time. Time definitely flies. But yeah, they won the World Series in 2018. Obviously we're pretty relevant in 2019, 2020, 2021, and then just it really seems last year they just just went in and just really fell. Really for most of the season. And then obviously, like you said, I mean, they lost a lot of guys from that World Series team. You really don't have anyone left, to my knowledge, unless there's maybe one or two bullpen arms or really someone. I don't think Devers. I don't know if he was on the roster in 2018. He may have been, but you lost Mookie Betts, you lost Andrew Benintendi. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts. I mean, what do you really have left? So Chris Sale, obviously, he's no idea what's going on with him, and I think it's best Boston just kind of, says, all right, let's just kind of rebuild and get some new pieces, and try and build up that farm. And you bring up the fact that their farm system isn't really anything too great. They had a couple guys who kind of came up last year. Rob Refsnyder, one guy you can maybe keep an eye out on. They signed Nate Fisher to a minor league deal. I do like him to an extent. He could be a decent pitcher to come into surprise, but right now they're really not working with much. So they're just going to pray that that division is weak, which it won't be, but we'll see.
Yeah, dude, it's unfortunate for them because, as you said, they've had some prospects that have come up and they just haven't made noise. Like Frenchie Cordero completely flopped. Jeter Downs has not looked like a major leaguer as of yet. Connor Wong is just your forever third catcher, AAA major leaguer emergency guy. Like those are three guys. I mean, to my knowledge, maybe there's some I miss. Again, I'm not a Red Sox fan. For those that are listening, feel free to correct us and tell us your opinion. That's what this show is for. And I'm looking at their lineup right now. It's just nothing special. I think another big blow we didn't mention is Trevor Story was a big contract, didn't perform at all last year, out of course. And of course, going from Colorado to Boston, there's going to be expectations for you to perform a lot higher. It seemed they had World Series hopes going into last year, didn't pan out that way, and now they're having to miss a whole season of him with Tommy John, or was it Tommy John? I don't know. I don't remember the exact injury. If you want to find the detail on, or I could as well. But then they freaking panicked and went and got Alberto Mondesi. Like, why? Like, why don't you give Jeter Downs or someone of that quantity a chance? But no, it just shows that they're really just playing into their fans and saying, "Oh, we can't have a single season of rebuilding." And I'll see, as I have a bet tonight on the Marlins Red Sox first inning. I have a no first inning allow with Corey Kluber and Trevor Rogers. So I'm glad I'm watching it right now, and I hopefully get to see the Red Sox go 1-2-3 right now as we speak. But yeah, for the Red Sox, I gotta agree. D. Moving on to the Southsiders. Tony La Russa out. That's the big one. A team that had World Series aspirations last year. A team with a very young core. Everything went wrong for the White Sox last year. It really did. People got hurt. People were underperforming. The team was losing so many games. They couldn't get over. It seems like they finally got over 500 at a point last year, but they couldn't stay there. It was like a perpetual up and down. And they finally were able to what in the world? The Red Sox just got a leadoff double off a blooper that Avisail Garcia lost in the lights. That's cool. Yeah, dude, it's the White Sox couldn't get things under control until La Russa was gone on that medical leave at the end of the year, and by that point it was too late. So I guess I'll go over the offseason for them real quick. I mean, the only thing they did addition wise is Ben Attendee. and Mike Clevenger. And who knows what the status of Mike Clevenger is right now. Granted, he hasn't been good the last couple years, so it's not like that's a huge piece for them, but it's a season that a lot is riding on. You got guys like Giolito, Lance Lynn, and others on the last year of their deal. Grandal was terrible last year. Moncada was terrible last year. Liam Hendricks is now battling cancer, and I wish him the best, and I wish him the quickest possible route to come back. But it just looks like it's going to be another one of those years for Boston where it's like, uh-oh. Or Boston, I'm sorry. Chicago, where it's like, uh-oh. Another year down the drain. Yeah, yeah, they also lost Johnny Cueto to Miami, Jose Abreu to Houston, their leader in the locker room. We'll talk about that later. AJ Pollock, of course, left. So really, yeah, I feel like they lost more than they gained. Josh Harrison ended up in Philadelphia. They traded just not a lot. Not a lot at all.
Yeah, the White Sox had an interesting offseason. I think I don't really want to say three, but I mean, I guess the three kind of moves that kind of pop off to me. Andrew Benintendi, I think that was like you said, that was a good signing, contact-oriented player. Elvis Andrews, I know he's up there in age, so I mean, it's a short-term deal, so kind of take it how you want. But that definitely could provide some depth, for this lineup. Mike Clevenger, we don't really know what his situation is, so I'm just gonna say his name and kind of just see how he, how he goes. But you definitely had a decent amount of losses this offseason. Jose Abreu, I definitely think that was by far their biggest loss in the offseason. This guy who was an MVP for them, shortened season in 2020, but sure. But he's a good ball player. He's a guy who will give you this 850, 900 OPS, a 260, 270, 280 average, and you lost that in that lineup, and that really blows. You lost Johnny Cueto, like you said, Vince Velasquez, as stated. Josh Harrison, that's definitely another unfortunate move. AJ Pollock. So, yeah, I mean, the White Sox didn't really spend a whole lot. And the one time they did, it was on Andrew Benintendi when they didn't really need outfield depth. But I mean, right now, do the White Sox really need a whole lot? I would say to an extent, considering the injury prone, which we've seen from them from the last year and a half. So I guess we'll see how things go for them. Right now, I'd probably give them a B-.
I'm gonna also go D. I was expecting a lot more from them, at least to get, even if you're not going to have all these additions, at least like lock some of these guys up that are under upcoming free agency, and they didn't do that. I am glad that they moved on from La Russa, a Hall of Fame manager at his heyday, but he's just not what he was anymore. And it looks like I'm about to lose my bet already because the Red Sox have a guy at third with nobody out. Whoop-de-woo. Poor Marlins. But yeah, it's not the greatest of all seasons for Chicago, and I wouldn't be surprised if them and the Twins and the Guardians left them in the dust again this year. Comment, let's see, we'll check on that real quick. Gio says, best offseason in the American League is the Blue Jays or the Texas Rangers. We'll get to them in not too long from now. Swinging a miss to Bobby Dalbec. 2 away. Next up is the Cleveland Guardians. Hayden, do you want to talk about the link that you just commented, if there's anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it pretty much just sent you in the chat, kind of at free agent add-ons, free agent losses, noteworthy trades for each team. So I don't know if you want to use that. It's definitely beneficial. Cleveland Guardians had an interesting offseason. I mean, for a team that really shocked MLB, winning 92 ones in 2022. It's a tough division. You kind of got three guys contending. One team, and the two bottom teams trying to get out of that rebuild. There wasn't really a whole lot the Guardians needed to do. But I guess kind of the two big moves that they added was Josh Bell and Mike Zunino. You bring in Josh Bell to this lineup.
Yes.
A much better first baseman compared to what they've had in the past with Carlos Santana, whatever. I think I do like this move for the Guardians. I think it's a good contact base hit, mixed with power hitter. Could definitely, be a good bat in that lineup. Could be a good, 3-4 type hitter in that lineup, depending on how things go. Mixing a guy like Josh Bell in a lineup with, Ahmed Rosario, Stephen Kwan, Andres Jimenez, Josh Naylor. That's not horrible. And I think one thing the Guardians kind of needed a little bit more was power and pop. And Josh Bell isn't this crazy power guy, but he could definitely maybe knock 10, 15, maybe even 20 if he's really feeling it at Progressive Field, I believe is what it's called. So yeah, they got Josh Bell, which was big. Mike Zunino, he's going to be replacing Austin Hedges. That was definitely a little bit of an unfortunate blow. Austin Hedges, not really known for his bat, but one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. His defensive metrics just are phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, you got Mike Zunino. He has a little pop in his bat, otherwise doesn't really do much. Decent off, decent. Yeah, he has a cannon of an arm. So yeah, those are the two good moves. In terms of the losses, I mean, you really just lost Austin Hedges. That really stands out, which was unfortunately a blow. Had a couple minor league trades. Otherwise, I mean, I think they had a pretty good offseason. I would give them I'd probably give them an A-. I don't really think there was much they needed to do, but when they lost Hedges, they went out, they got a catcher, and they added a good first baseman, in my opinion. So, yeah, I would give them an A-.
I'm going to go B+, and here's why. I'm not going to be as good on them as you were, just because Minnesota did more than them, and a team that did win 92-plus games last year debatably should have won the American League Division Series against the Yankees if it wasn't for I forgot who they start in Game 5. Like Shane Bieber was full rest, and they won out with some guy with a 5+ ERA, and of course the Yankees went to town on them in a winner-take-all game. But yeah, I'm gonna go B+ just because of the schedule restructuring. The Central is not going to be seeing each other as much, and I think Cleveland might have overachieved a little bit last year due to them playing the Central. But you and I have discussed about this. I think this is going to be a team that continues to get better and better as the next couple of years go. Last year was not the peak. Last year was the start of everything. So yeah, I really. Offseason wise, I give them a B+ just because the Twins did a little bit more, which will make it a little bit more dicey of a division for them to win this year, hopefully. And yeah, just because they're going to have to play everybody else a little bit more. So layers at bat. Please don't hit a home run right here, buddy. But yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't try to bring back either Austin Hedges or Luke Maile as a backup catcher. Maybe they have some prospect or some 33-year-old that's just begging for the opportunity just to be your backup captain, defensive guy that performs every third or fourth day. But I give him a B+. Honestly, not a bad offseason for a team that should probably make the playoffs again if everything goes right. Oh boy, here's a tough one, Hayden. Everybody's favorite Detroit Tigers are the next up on this list. And oh my, can we talk about how much of a stinker last offseason or expectations to performance was for them last year? My goodness, a team that cannot get out of the rebuild whatsoever. I can take it away with this one if you want. They didn't bring back Matthew Boyd, along with Michael Lorenzen. They were able to poach from another Central foe. So 2 additions to the rotation. They already have some young guys like Skubal, Faedo, and others in that rotation pool, but just adds a little bit more depth. I mean, I think Rodriguez and Baez were their 2 big additions last offseason. They both have buyouts after this year, so it'll be interesting to see if they are able to keep either one of them around. If they want to stay, if it makes the most sense for them, that will be something to watch. Another offseason moves is they finally moved in the fences at Comerica Park, dropped down a couple of the tall fences, which make it a little bit easier to hit home runs. And I know Miguel Cabrera is kicking around saying, really? Now y'all do it on my last ever season. So that's a little unfortunate casing for them. They traded, of course, Gregory Soto and Joe Jimenez, their 2 best relievers in the National League East, to the Phillies and the Braves, respectively. So their bullpen, which granted did not need to be as good as it was last year for how good the team was performing, got worse. But yeah, just another year where it doesn't look good for AJ Hinch and company. They took a chance on him after the sign stealing scandal and had a new route there, and he just has not been good there, has not been winning, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if they were last in the AL Central again. What about you, Hayden? What were your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, I think they definitely went after some pitching, like you said, Matthew Boyd, Michael Lorenzen. I actually do give them props for the Lorenzen signing. Definitely a sneaky guy. I mean, he's not this elite caliber pitcher, but he could definitely have a couple good weeks. A lot of good outings. Of course, you brought in Matthew Boyd. You lost Jeimer Candelario. That was a blow. You lost Andrew Chafin, one of the best left-handed relievers who, essentially signed for the same amount of money to Arizona than what he was making in Detroit. You lost Tucker Barnhart, which was probably a better thing for them. You got these two pitchers for $18 million combined. They're 1-year deals. So, you were able to work things there. Tigers haven't really been spending in a while. Like you said, they brought in the fences, which I definitely think will be a big benefit for them. Right now, this is a very young roster. You look at their roster. You have Javi Baez, but the rest of that roster is very, and Miguel Cabrera. But you look at that roster and it's very young. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Akil Baddoo, Spencer Torkelson. I do think Riley Green is going to have a big year. I'm calling it. I think he's going to be an all-star. I think he's going to win a Gold Glove for the Tigers. I think he's going to do great. Spencer Torkelson, I think, will have a little bit better of a year. The rotation is young, has potential. Casey Mize has Tommy John, so he's not going to be coming back until the middle of the season. But they have a pretty solid they have a pretty solid rotation when healthy of Casey Mize, Bo Brisky, Matthew Boyd, Tyler Alexander, Michael Lorenzen, Matt Manning, Eduardo Rodriguez, Tariq Skubal, Joey Wentz. So, I understand their point in not wanting to go after a whole lot of guys. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go after a starting catcher. I really thought that I honestly thought that they were going to try and make a push for Wilson Contreras. Last year they definitely spent a lot, and this year, they kind of got a little bit of new, executives in the office, and they kind of just, said, forget it, we're not going to do much this offseason. One thing they actually did do, I don't know if you mentioned, but in terms of trades, I did like how they were able to obtain Nick Maton and Matt Verling from the Phillies. Obviously, you gave up Gregory Soto, one of your best relievers, but you got two decent bats who, obviously coming off of bench roles from Philly, but maybe could find an everyday spot for Detroit. So, the Tigers definitely, a disappointing offseason. I was really hoping for them to go out, probably sign two of the top tier free agents. So I'd probably give them a C-.
One other subtraction that we didn't mention was Jonathan Scope. Another one of those big middle infielders they've had the last couple of years, and honestly was not bad for them over the course of his time in Detroit. But I'm really not seeing a lot from this team, future-wise, current-wise. One of the worst run. I feel so bad for Detroit fans. Like, at least the Lions finally have a future, and the Red Wings are finally okay. But man, what a terrible sports city. Like, as an Atlanta fan, it's been bad for a lot of my life. But man, I would hate to be a Detroit fan, honestly. I guess you get the Spartans and the Wolverines are usually pretty good at things, but not a great professional sports town. Chad Schrader said, "What's up, guys? How are you guys doing this evening?" I am fine. We're talking some AL recap with you guys. Glad you're tuning in. Any other words for him, Hayden?
No, I don't. Tigers.
Advice?
Yeah, likewise.
Rob!
Baseball.
Pitch Timer Man's in the chat. What's good? What's good, Mr. Commish? We're happy that you're in here. All right, let's talk about the World Series champion Houston Astros. Big one. They got Jose Abreu, a position that they probably had the best luck at upgrading because of the contract ending with Yuli Gurriel and Trey Mancini. So they go out there and they steal the White Sox captain, add him to a stacked lineup. They say Michael Brantley has more in the tank. They bring him back. They give Rafael Montero his money. And really, the guys they lost, shoot, some of them might end up coming back still at this rate. Like Yuli Gurriel still out there. Christian Vasquez found a home in Minnesota. We'll talk about him later on. Justin Verlander, of course, now the new ace of Hayden's New York Mets. Trey Mancini up in Chicago along with Eric Hosmer. And a team that just won it all is continually winning the American League. They're basically the Chiefs of baseball right now via the AL side. And they didn't need much, and they still got better somehow. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they won the American League again this year. I give it a
Yeah.
A.
Yeah, I mean, the Astros, like you said, they're one of the best teams in baseball, the best team in baseball, world, reigning World Series champs. Like you said, the Jose Abreu signing was definitely needed for them. Considering first base was kind of a weak position for them, Yuli Gurriel just, really wasn't doing much offensively. Defensively, he was mid. And I mean, now you add a guy like Jose Abreu with his power, with his numbers, with his metrics, with his glove. I mean, it's just only going to do so much for that lineup. I mean, that's the lineup stacked. I mean, it's just it's elite. You lost Verlander. Won Cy Young for them last year. Definitely a big reason for their success last year, especially in the postseason. But you know what? It happens. They kind of moved on with some younger guys, Luis Garcia, Framber Valdez. So, one of the, he'll probably be slotted into the rotation. Otherwise, like I said, Trey Mancini, Will Smith, Alesmis Diaz, those aren't really going to have any big impacts. I actually do like the Michael Brantley and Rafael Montero extension. I thought those were pretty good extensions, if you ask me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really think Houston had a horrible offseason. I think there wasn't really much they needed to do, but they only got better with bringing in Jose Abreu. So I'd give them an A+.
I think one thing that we didn't mention is, kind of hinting at the Verlander thing. Their starting rotation probably did take up a little bit of a dip, but honestly, it was so strong last year that I don't even know if they'll feel the loss that badly. Coming out of camp, though, there are two big question marks for them. Luis Garcia is going to have a big time adjusting to the pitch clock, and we'll see how that handles his maneuvers. And also Lance McCullers looks like he might be missing a little bit of time with injury, but they extended Christian Javier. You still got Framber Valdez, Urquidy. Like, Astros are ultimately going to be fine. McCullers might miss, I don't know, at worst, probably a month from what it sounds like. And I've learned from experience, don't rush your guys back in April if necessary. You can't win the division in April. You can certainly lose it, and the Astros aren't going to lose it. So put it in that perspective, I think they'll be fine. Yeah, I guess the one thing we've kind of said a couple times, like how good the organization is. They do have a little bit of a luck being in the American League. It's the weaker of the two leagues. So, yeah, they've been able to run the ALCS like 8 straight years. But in the National League, it's probably a little bit more competitive. That's why you see different teams pretty much every year win it. But, I mean, no hate towards the Astros organization at all anymore. At least I think they fully redeemed themselves, winning the World Series with pretty much the complete different roster. For those of you that hate it as of right now, I mean, it's time to move on. It's 2023. They might win again in the next year or two. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Houston. As I said, I give them an A. Connor Whitehall, tell me if I'm saying your name correctly, sir, says, go Astros. We're happy to have you listening. And yeah, they're going to be another fun team for you this summer. You're finally free of the Texans and the Rockets for a little bit. So any other thoughts you want to put on the world champs?
No, I think they had a great offseason, and I think they're going to play some great baseball this year.
Same TBH. All right. Kansas City Royals, Zach Greinke enrolled as Chapman time. Chapman's already dealing with injuries. The biggest addition was probably Ryan Yarbrough, a guy that looked really good for the Rays a couple of years ago leading up to that World Series run, but hasn't been the greatest since then. It says they lost Zach Greinke on this article, but he has officially been brought back, so that is not absolutely the case. They traded Michael Taylor within Division II, the Twins, to pair up with Byron Buxton, Kepler, and Gallo in that Minnesota outfield. We talked about Humberto Mondesi was kind of a fire sale trade to the Red Sox after the Trevor Story injury. Yeah, just another city they're happy the Kansas City Chiefs exist because a team that's been rebuilding ever since 2015, since they won it all. Not really seeing a lot out of them still.
Yeah, Royals had a pretty cruddy offseason. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in baseball last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the worst this upcoming year. Like you said, the only way they got better was with bringing in Ryan Yarbrough, which honestly, he'll probably go with a deadline if things really go south for the Royals. Otherwise, yeah, you didn't really do much. Jog my memory. They brought back Greinke or they didn't? They did, right?
They did.
Okay, so
Recently,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you just got Yarbrough and you brought back Greinke, so I guess 2 spots in that rotation. Otherwise, you didn't bring anything in offensively. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to comment on with the Kansas City Royals. You really have to feel for those fans and for that team. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish last in their division this upcoming year. Yeah, I mean, like you kind of said, they're just blessed that they have the Chiefs, and there's really nothing else the Royals are going to be doing. I mean, everyone's just going to be, looking at their calendar saying, when's football season? Literally in July and August. So Royals, they had a horrible offseason. There wasn't really, there was a lot they could have done to get a little bit better. I mean, they have a couple good prospects in the bunch. Bobby Wood Jr., I think he's going to have a really good year. But yeah, they just did really nothing. It's been uneventful offseason in Kansas City. I'm going to give them a D.
Another point I want to make is how the Whit era didn't last very long, about a season and a half at max. Whit Merrifield, of course, was shipped to Toronto last year, and I think he's got another year on the deal for the Blue Jays. We'll talk about him in a little bit. So yeah, it's time for guys like MJ Melendez, Bobby Witt Jr., and a bunch of the other young guys. They still got Salvador Perez. MJ Melendez loves to hit. He's a guy that can catch as well. Nicky Lopez, Vinny Pasquantino, Nick Prado, some of the guys we learned about doing that Longball podcast famous White Sox Royals Thursday night stream. I like the Drew Waters edition, a Braves prospect for a lot of years that never had the opportunity in Atlanta, and we traded him in the compensation draft pick, which landed us J.R. Ritchie, and he looked good in his time in Kansas City Major League play last year. One thing I will give him props for is the bullpen does look really good for what it's worth. You got guys like Amir Garrett, Chris Bubich, Scott Barlow, of course, Aroldis Chapman if he can stay healthy. Brad Keller, Jordan Lyles. Like, honestly, Josh Stalma, the bullpen isn't that bad. I mean, a couple of those guys I might be mixing up with starters, but for the most part, like, that's not a bad bullpen for a 60, 70 win team. Something to keep in mind when watching. I don't think they're going to be blowing a lot of games, that's for sure. But yeah, I think I have them above the Tigers as of right now. And if things really, really, really go south for the White Sox, I wouldn't be surprised if they push them for third. I think their future is brighter than Detroit for sure, but I'm still going to go in the same boat. I'll probably give them a C- off season. Here's a big one: the Angels. Do you want to do the honors?
Sure, why not? So the Anaheim Angels. Yeah, another offseason, they're really trying to build a contender. I mean, a team around Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. I guess kind of what's left of Anthony Rendon and Taylor Ward, Jared Walsh. But otherwise, it's been an interesting offseason. They were kind of quiet. The only really, I guess, big move that they made was left-handed pitcher Tyler Anderson, who was coming off of a 2022 All-Star season. He pitched a phenomenal season. He's going to make a great addition to their rotation. Maybe an occasional. I was thinking of someone else. But yeah, Tyler Anderson, All-Star pitcher last season, nice lefty. We'll see. Hopefully, he can just prove that last year wasn't this one-year wonder type thing. They also brought in Carlos Estevez, whoever that is, I guess. In terms of losses, obviously, you lost Michael Lorenzen. He went to Detroit. You lost Archie Bradley, and you lost Kurt Suzuki behind the plate. When it comes to trades, obviously, they were able to obtain Gio Urshela. So I think that was an interesting acquisition for them there. And then they also were able to obtain Hunter Renfroe. So another 2 good bats in that lineup. So hopefully, you look at that lineup: Ohtani, Trout, Rendon, Ward, Renfroe, Urshela. You hope they can always, the offense isn't really the concern. It's the pitching. And what they do every offseason is they get these mid-arm pitchers. I think Tyler Anderson's a great pitcher, but you need more. You don't really have a rotation without Ohtani and Anderson, in my opinion. So they need
Every
the
Detmers
pitching.
had a good year.
And that's what kills them is every offseason they go out and they don't get any arms. And then, I mean, kind of the woes really come on in May. So, yeah, I mean, the Angels, like I said, unfortunately, with looking at the Mariners only getting better, the Rangers are getting better. I mean, I still think they're a fourth place team in that division. I mean, maybe they can come into surprise and play a little bit better than the Rangers are around. But with the Astros being elite, with the Mariners being that second place team most likely, and the Rangers getting better, the Angels really didn't do a whole lot to get better. They could have easily went out and tried and get, a Correa or, any sort of elite A caliber player in the offseason, which they didn't. Obviously, they didn't trade Ohtani, so I think that was definitely a good move. So, kudos to them. I'll clap them for that. I'll give them a B minus. I'll be a little bit generous. I'll give them a B minus.
Word. Seems like they're trying to capture lightning in the bottle, which will leave it to the Angels to do that. Bringing guys in like Tyler Anderson, like Brandon Drury, like Gio Urshela, who had one good year. And they're seeing if they can keep on it. Hunter Renfroe apparently was not a big fit in the Milwaukee locker room, so they're trying to bring him over. So Mike Trout's teammate is Mike Trout, officially, doppelganger season out there in Anaheim. A team that always looks good on paper, but you just know you can't trust them. Even in expanded playoffs, I don't see it with how the Rangers have done this offseason, with how they look future-wise either way. The Mariners and the Astros are already solidified. It doesn't look bright for LA once again. Like, Trout's only getting older. Ohtani might be gone after this year. The Anthony Rendon contract has just been horrible. Last year, as you said, they finally went out and got some arms like Lorenzen and Noah Syndergaard and didn't keep them. So, ended up being a wash at that point in time. We'll see how Tyler Anderson does. I believe he was an all-star for the Dodgers last year. If not, he was pretty damn close. But I don't really know if you can trust him in the same camp to have a season similar to what he did in 2022. Excuse me. It says an A minus for them, but I think we're not as foolish as the Bleacher Report writers. What was your official grade for them again?
I give them a B minus.
I'll go C minus, just because it looks a little flaky, and again, they always look good on paper. Show us over 6 months of the regular season, and they never have. So, Trout's ego is finally starting to come up the last couple years. A guy who has been so quiet most of his career. Not saying that he fully wants out of Anaheim, but you're finally starting to see little snippets here and there of his pride coming before the team. Which, honestly, at this point in time, I understand it. So, if I'm the Angels, I'm rooting for that Japanese billionaire to buy the team that they finally sell, and that if that happens, I think there's a good chance that Shohei will stay. If not, things could go south really, really quickly, and Trout would probably feel anguish. That's for sure. I think they got a new GM this offseason, or one recently. Is that right?
I think they may have, yeah.
Which hopefully he's the one that's making these moves and not the same guy that was making the Rendon type signings, because that just wasn't great for the Angels at all. So yeah, let's head back central, shall we? With the Twin City Metropolitans. I'll let you do the honors on this one again if you want to.
Sure.
Scroll into it.
Yeah, the Minnesota Twins. Obviously, they had there was one guy in particular that was going all over the place. But we'll get into him a little bit later. I would say the three big, free agent additions was Christian Vasquez behind the plate. They brought in Joey Gallo, a move that didn't really catch the attention of many. And then, of course, after months of craziness, they finally got Carlos Correa. In terms of free agent losses, you lost Gary Sanchez, you lost Michael Fulmer, Dylan Bundy, and Miguel Sano. And keep in mind, you did lose Gio Urshela for a trade to Anaheim, just stated a little, couple minutes ago. But yeah, Christian Vasquez, like I said, he will most likely be the everyday catcher. We'll see what he could provide for them. Joey Gallo, really trying to show that, what type of player he is. I mean, he's had a crazy last couple seasons. I mean, it's decent with the Rangers, great power, great pop. Was always this low average, low OBP guy, but, great OPS, slugging, home run power. Went to New York and just was horrible. He was just unhit. He just couldn't hit. He was unwatchable. And it came to the point where, he was like, I think he went on a streak where he was like 0 for 50 or something around those lines. So he was just horrible. Got traded to the Dodgers. Actually showed a little bit of light. Started to, get a little bit of his routine back. Could get some contact, hit for some power. And then the offseason came in. Now he's in Minnesota. So, we'll see what he could do. If he could try and hit some piss missiles out in Minnesota and around the Central, hopefully he can get his power back. And then, of course, Carlos Correa. They finally re-signed him, or I guess you could say re-signed. Correa obviously signing with the Giants and the Mets, and then back with the Minnesota Twins where he finished last season off. So Correa, definitely he'll be a guy to keep an eye on, with his knee and leg and the injury. So, we'll see how that goes for him. Hopefully that doesn't go back to the Twins and kind of bite them in the behind. That would be very unfortunate. But yeah, they brought those three guys in. Like I said, I think they've had a intriguing offseason. They did a lot of their offseason shopping at the deadline, whether that was bringing in, like we said, Tyler Mahle or Jorge Lopez. So, yeah, right now I would probably give the Minnesota Twins – I'd probably give them – you look at that division. The Guardians, you win 92 games. We'll see what the White Sox are going to do. You have the Tigers and Royals kind of just hovering around. Are the Twins going to be that third-place team, second-place team, or are they going to go for the division like they did, back-to-back years just a couple years ago? So I think they could have done maybe a little bit more, but I think at the end of the day, they finally got the Correa deal to work. If you didn't get the Correa deal, I would probably be pretty harsh on them. They got Correa back. I'm going to give them a solid. I'm going to give them a B+.
I'm going to go with a B myself. A couple moves that were not mentioned in the article. We kind of hinted at them earlier. I like the Michael A. Taylor addition along with Joey Gallo. They're giving Max Kepler one more year to kind of figure things out. If Buxton stays healthy, that's a really good outfield. Keeping Carlos Correa after all that to pair in the infield, with guys like Polanco, and of course they lost Arias in the Pablo Lopez trade, which I think was a win-win for both sides. We'll talk about the Arias side of the deal later this week, but the rotation really needed a guy, and that's a guy that I think can perform really well in Minnesota. Christian Vasquez is probably going to be better than what Gary Sanchez was last year for sure. So yeah, I feel like they improved in pretty much all additions. They got their closer, as you said, in Lopez. So they got two Lopez's on the same team. That'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, Carlos Correa's in town for the long term. Buxton, really not a bad. Of course, they also got Kyle Farmer in a trade with Cincinnati. So a nice little platoon guy, to play behind guys like Polanco and Carlos Correa. If injuries or off days, which will happen over the course of a season, play up. Yeah, I'll go B. I know they were also in the Carlos Rodon sweepstakes, of course, settled in on Correa instead. And I would say getting Correa and Pablo Lopez over just Carlos Rodon for the Twins was honestly the better move for them as of right now. The balanced schedule will definitely give them a little bit of an issue, but if they come out firing, ready to play, and they're cooking by 4th of July, I think this team should be right in the wickets of the postseason, if not get in. I got to go do one thing for the next one, so I'll let you do the honors one more time while I'm gone for a minute, Hayden. This is the team right next door to you, the New York Yankees. I'll give my analysis when I get back, because I'm sure there's a lot that we both have to say. Of course, they brought back fan of the show, Tommy Kaling. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, take it away. I'll be right back.
Yeah, the New York Yankees. There was really one guy in particular that was standing out for a lot of New York Yankee fans, and that was the man and the newly named captain in Aaron Judge, who was coming off of his best season by far, winning the AL MVP, breaking Roger Maris's home run single season record. So yeah, obviously, like I stated, they re-signed, extended Aaron Judge, named him the captain. Obviously the first captain since Derek Jeter, just about almost a decade ago. So absolutely good to see for Yankee fans. They did bring in Carlos Rodon, nice lefty pitcher, and of course right-handed pitcher Tommy Canley. Canley, however you say it. So yeah, I think those were an interesting move for the Yankees. There wasn't really a whole lot I think you had to do. Obviously, if you did not re-sign Aaron Judge, I think Yankee fans would have. I think the Yankees would have had a horrible offseason, but they did sign him, and there wasn't really much for them to do. I think they could have maybe done a little bit more offensively. Rotation wise, they're really set. I mean, you have your rotation in Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, Domingo Germán, Frankie Montas, and of course, you still have Clark Schmidt kind of showing his presence as that sixth starter potentially. So, you brought Rodon into that mix. So the rotation's really set. There wasn't really much to do pitching. It was really just offensively. And there were rumors that maybe they would have went out. There were rumors that maybe the Yankees would have signed this elite shortstop in, a Trey Turner, or Carlos Correa, but they didn't really want to go after a shortstop, and they just kind of said, we're just going to sign Judge, and that's going to be our main focus offensively. Obviously, you did also re-sign Anthony Rizzo, which, decent. I mean, Rizzo is on the decline. Offensively, defensively, he's not quite what he used to be a couple years ago in Chicago with the Cubs. But yeah, I mean, Rizzo, age 33, hopefully he can get a little bit better. Like I said, his ground ball percentage is going up. He's not really hitting the ball in the air a lot. Last year he hit for a low average, low OBP, decent OPS, 32 home runs. He's a lefty, so he's going to benefit with that short porch at Yankee Stadium. So you could expect, 25, 30 home runs from him. Those are really the additions. When it came to the subtractions, you lost Benintendi, you lost Taillon, you lost Chapman, you lost Carpenter, and you lost Miguel Castro. Being completely honest, I don't really think any of those losses are going to be huge for them. Benintendi, contact hitter, you lose. Okay. Jameson Taillon, you lose. Unfortunate move. Otherwise, I don't really think they're going to miss Chapman or Castro. Matt Carpenter, he, was a little bit, had a good streak with them, but it really wasn't meant to last. Otherwise, yeah, I think the Yankees had a good offseason. And honestly, they're my first team coming in, and I'm going to give them an A+.
I fully agree. I caught most of what you said there. Yeah, I feel like they did everything they needed. I still don't know. Spoiler alert. I don't think it's enough to beat Houston still. Ultimately, in a 4-7 or a 3-5, just how good both teams are. But yeah, they lost Aaron for a total of like 8 minutes with the name change to the Giants. Ultimately, they bring him back. They also bring back Anthony Rizzo, as you said, a guy who, as you said, is declining. But I think at this point in his career, I think Yankee Stadium is the perfect place for him. A guy that his power numbers are going to stay up. A guy who is walking more than he ever has in his career. So, what was it, a 2 or 3 year a deal for Rizzo? I think that deal will end up doing wonders for them, and he'll play out the rest of that contract very easily. He's also best friends with Judge, from what I'm hearing, so it just made sense for them to bring both of the parties back. Yeah, the Benintendi one isn't really that big of a hit. He just didn't really do a lot for New York. I don't think they really wanted him in the first place. That Red Sox pedigree was still stained in the Bronx to his name. But yeah, he just never really got healthy. I think he had like a 130 average in his like 8 or 9 appearances with the Yankees last year. So they won't really miss him too much from what I'm hearing. Jameson Taillon is a guy, when healthy on a roll, is going to give you good quality starts, but found a job in the north side of Chicago. Chapman, I'm sure every fan in existence is happy that he has moved on. All the scares he gave them in the postseason. Matt Carpenter, a guy that had a really good flash in the pan. I'm maybe surprised they didn't want to walk the line and try to bring him back for one more time, but they didn't. But yeah, Carlos Rodon. I mean, talk about a rotation. Like, I know Frankie Montas is hurt, and Severino has not really done it so much yet the last couple of years. But even without Montas in the conversation, like, talk about debatably the best rotation in baseball. I mean, you're paying Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon over $400 million in total to be your guys. So that's something to look at for sure. Something that I think every team would be willing to have Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon as their 1-2. Nestor Cortez, we'll see how he does without the pitch clock restrictions this year. I don't think it'll be as hard for him as other people are thinking. I think he does a lot of the quirks and stuff momentarily, like as a force. So I think we'll get a good look at him for over the World Baseball Classic. I think he's still in it. No, he actually withdrew out, so never mind. But he's a guy that I don't think is going to have the fall off that a lot of people are expecting. He's been really good the last couple of years. But yeah, Severino's got to stay healthy. A really bad loss for them. That Frankie Montas trade was honestly the biggest loss in Yankee land the last year or two. I mean, the Sonny Gray deal a couple years ago blew up in their face as an Oakland starter. And now the Montas deal, I don't think he's going to play another game in a Yankee uniform. I think this is the last year of his deal, if not the second to last. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved on after the season, and the A's benefited from a lot of prospects. If I'm a Yankee fan, though, I am excited for the future. Of course, you're going to be winning in the now. You're the Yankees, but a lot of the prospects made a lot of strides in that postseason last year. Peraza, Volpe, of course, is soon to be on the way. Dominguez, like guys that are probably going to be pushing the older gentlemen like Aaron Hicks and like IKF out of the lineup by summertime. Which, yeah, they also brought back IKF, which is a weird move in itself, but maybe I understand it for the time being. Maybe the clubhouse and Aaron Boone likes the guy, and if that's the case, I understand they're not going to listen to the fan base entirely. But, yeah, team, I wouldn't be surprised if they won the AL East at all. Once again, the team that got better and was a 199-win team last year. I give them an A+. Team 11 of 15 on the evening. We got the Oakland Athletics. This one will probably be very quickly. We'll probably be talking more about departures than additions. I'll do the honors since I know you've kind of carried the load the last 15 minutes, Hayden. Their biggest additions: Aledmus Diaz, stole him from Houston. Jace Peterson, former Atlanta Brave legend, and he was a really good utility guy for the Brewers the last couple of years. Had a lot of clutch moments there in Milwaukee. And Trevor May, the Fortnite streamer, moving home to the West Coast. He's a Seattle native. Of course, they lost Stephen Vogt to retirement. He is now part of the Seattle Mariners coaching staff, so it'll be interesting to see what insight he's able to give Seattle whenever they face Oakland this year. Chad Pinder, of course, was also lost in the deal. They handed the Braves Sean Murphy, so that's cool. In return, they were able to get Joe Payamps and Justin Yeager and Esteury Ruiz as a fourth outfielder option from the Brewers. Of course, the Braves sent over Contreras to Milwaukee in that part. We've talked about that before. They also were able to pick up Braves prospect, who actually has had a lot of good signs in the major league so far. I wouldn't be surprised if he worked out in Oakland. Kyle Muller, along with Royber Salinas, Freddie Tarnok, who I'm not the highest on, and Manny Pena was really just a throwaway to add to the deal. Also shipped Yanni Hernandez to the Dodgers for cash. So the owner, who's very rich, thinks he needed to shred more salary and add more money to his pockets via that deal. But yeah, dude, just a straight up F. We went from an A+ to an F. Really sad that this could be the last year in Oakland for a once prestigious organization. And I understand that they had really good teams over the last couple of years before this era. And a lot of the times they were blocked by the Astros. You know, teams with Olsen, with Chapman, with Chris Bassett, with Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, like they were really, really good for a long time, Profar even. It's just the Astros were in their way. The owner blew it up and decided not to retool. And I wonder if they're going to join their older brothers in the Raiders down in Vegas, which might be the best move for them. Ultimately, we've talked about that many times, but I feel really bad for Oakland fans, that's for sure. The ones that are left. There's probably a lot of Giants fans in Oakland anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Oakland Athletics, they have really, I feel horrible for them. I mean, they have just been a team that was really on the rise, and now they're one of the worst MLB teams. I mean, it wasn't only a couple years ago when you had, a lineup consisting of Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Marcus Simeon, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Carlos, Mark Canna.
He gets mentioned twice. Olson was so good he got mentioned twice.
I mentioned him twice. My fault. I was looking at their 20. I'm looking at their 2020 lineup, and it's just, I mean, it's so sad. And keep in mind, I mean, look, their whole rotation's gone. I mean, whether that was from Chris Bassett, Frankie Montas, Liam Hendricks, Jesus Luzardo, they just traded away everybody.
Mm.
So, I'm not going to make this a, anti-Oakland Athletics, Fisher rant, but just sell the team. Honestly, just sell the team. Move and sell the team. I mean, simply, you didn't really get much for the Sean Murphy trade. You dropped in the draft lottery, so they're really not catching a break there at all.
Yeah, that was really rough for them. Really rough.
Oakland, they have no idea what they're doing. If there was anything worse than an F, I would easily give it to them. I'm just hoping what are Oakland A's fans going to watch this year? Prospects, and mid to cruddy MLB players. So yeah, I mean they're gonna win if even 50 games this year. So they get an F, and if I could easily give them anything worse than an F, I would give them a Z.
Honestly, why not? Just give them a Z at this point. I think that's what they deserve. With a payroll of like what, 30 million? It's a slap in the face. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Oakland move or the Las Vegas move would honestly be bad for them. We've talked about it. Like a lot of the diehard Raider fans moved to Vegas with the team to get a better life than what they had in the Oakland area. And a lot of the Raider fans are A fans. Like you see the success the Golden Knights are having there. They're talking about adding an MLS team there. From what I hear, their women's basketball team is down there and gets really good attendance. They have a lot of college basketball tournaments there. Where you're like, Vegas is a very growing sports town. Like the out of towners are going to come in there to see it, and the locals attach to those teams really easily. Again, a lot of the Oakland folks moved from their old life to Vegas to move with the Raiders, and a lot of those fans are already some of Oakland's own. So just make the move to Vegas as soon as possible. And for the A's fans that are listening, we are really sorry, like the rest of us. But hopefully, if it is their last season, make your way out to the Coliseum this year. Have it a couple more rides. And I know it's not the nicest ballpark, but at least enjoy your team while it's out there. That's what I would do, in my opinion. And we wish you guys the best in the future, honestly. Talk about their brothers up north, the Seattle Mariners. A big offseason for them, indeed. They finally made the postseason after 21 plus years. Ran into their brother in the Astros, and their season died as soon as they brought Robbie Ray out of the bullpen to see Yordan Alvarez. It was pretty much over from there. And one playoff game, it went two full lengths of 18 innings, and the other rookie, Jeremy Pena, ended that one, broke their hearts in an easy Houston sweep in a series that honestly wasn't that far apart run differential wise. It's just the Astros were clutch in the moments that the Mariners crumbled. But yeah, their biggest move, it might be a little out of date because it says their biggest free agency ad was right-handed reliever Trevor Gott. So we might have to go into the banks a little bit here. I'll pull up the transaction list we were looking at earlier. They lost Mitch Haniger, of course, in the Milwaukee trade, but in that deal, they were able to bring back who was it? Colton Wong, of course. They also sent over Abraham Toro, thrown away prospect from both the Astros and the Mariners. In that deal, they sent Kyle Lewis to Arizona for Kupel Hummel. I know they made a bullpen trade. They traded Eric Swanson to the Blue Jays, if I'm not mistaken, for
Teoscar Hernandez.
Was it? Yeah, it was Teoscar Hernandez. I'm just seeing that now. They lost Adam Frazier to the Orioles, but a guy that was okay for them the last couple of years. They're probably still feeling the woes of the Kyle Seager retirement, but they still got so much youth there. Julio Rodriguez broke out last year. Kelenic seems like he likes his fine tuning, and this is really his make or break year. And I'm starting to bet on the make side for him this season. Yeah, what do you have to say? I think this team is a playoff team for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think the Mariners, I don't quite think that they're the best team in that division. I think the Astros are far better than them, but I definitely think they're a great second place and a wild card team for them. Like we saw Julio Rodriguez post a good, phenomenal rookie campaign, winning rookie of the year. Of course, put a lot of money into when it came to the extensions. The past couple months when it comes to their rotation, was a team that, maybe could have made a couple moves, but necessarily didn't. I don't really think it would have been bad if they didn't, but I think they could have. You got Teoscar Hernandez, which I think was probably the highlight of their off season. Like you said, with Jared Kalanick, hopefully we'll see what he could do this year. I agree with you. I think it's make or break. I think this season is going to determine, is the former number one prospect really getting the hype, or was he kind of just grade A ball player and just couldn't perform at the MLB level? But yeah, not really much to say when it comes to Seattle negatively. They're America's team. I definitely have a big soft spot for them. I mean, if they arguably could be my favorite American League team to keep an eye out on. So yeah, expecting big things from the Seattle Mariners this season. I'm going to give them a B-.
So let's see. I like that they were able to keep the Luis Castillo trade last summer was such a big thing in its own. The guy smacked around the Yankees like 4 times in 1 month. It was so crazy. And I'm pretty sure they locked him up to a short-term extension to extend his time in Seattle. But other than that, like the back half of the rotation for them last year was really young. And the baseball savant numbers really like what they saw to them. So there's a chance that their whole rotation, if Robbie Ray can get his act together for a full season and not be just a low life or, just in the low moments, honestly, a really complete 5-guy rotation. So guys like Marco Gonzalez, guys like, I don't know. I mean, some of the names are slipping my mind as of right now. I'm trying to look at the list to see if there's anything else we missed. Oh yeah, they also brought back Ty France and Tom Murphy. So those are nice little additions. Tommy La Stella was brought in as a bench piece. I knew there was a couple guys we missed. Cole Calhoun was brought in on a minor league deal, so if the Kelenic train goes south again, I wouldn't be surprised if Cole Calhoun got some time in Seattle as like a fourth outfielder, backup DH, platoon type guy. And Mariners fans, be excited. The Seahawks won the Russell Wilson trade, and y'all are about to make the playoffs for 2 years in a row. Like, how about that? How about a time? And the Kraken are good now. So, Seattle sports fans are probably having time of their life, and honestly, they deserve it. Let's see. We're moving it on to the weirdos of the MLB, and I say that full-heartedly in the nicest way possible. Tampa Bay Rays. Hayden, do you want to tell us what happened with them other than getting Mr. Led Zeppelin? That was their biggest addition.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Tampa Bay, they don't really sign many free agents. That's kind of been the moral of the story for Tampa Bay. They're still that big money ball team, prospect oriented. If they're going to sign guys, it's going to be guys that are not really known and to cheap deals. The only big really move that they made was right-handed pitcher Zach Eflin, and I think that was probably the most they've spent in quite some time now. So, yeah, really the only big move. In terms of losses, they lost Ryan Yarbrough, they lost Corey Kluber, Mike Zunino, David Peralta, and Kevin Kiermaier. Like I said, spending on free agents typically is just not the Tampa Bay way. Couple blows when it came to it. Obviously, Tyler Glasnow just reported that he did have a little bit of an injury, so he's going to miss, I think, a couple of weeks, if a month or two. So that's going to be an unfortunate move for their rotation. But, still have a decent rotation in Shane Baz, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Jeffrey Springs, the newly acquired Zach Eflin. So, yeah, we'll see what their rotation does. Offensively, like I said, they're a big prospect team. Randy Arozarena, can he go back to kind of that elite performance? Wander Franco, we'll see. He's, if he's healthy, he could really have a good, phenomenal campaign for the Tampa Bay Rays. Like I said, when it comes to Tampa Bay Rays in the offseason, there's really not much a whole lot to talk about. If anything, a lot of guys have left over the last couple of years, as stated. Recently, Kevin Kiermaier, fan favorite. But otherwise, losing Blake Snell a couple years ago. Who really, who knows what the future holds for them? They're still a relevant team, that money ball mentality. Tampa sports are kind of going to the toilet. Obviously, the Buccaneers are probably not going to be very good next year. You don't have Tom Brady, so where all my Buccaneer, where all my Buccaneer bandwagon fans at?
Die, old man, die. Honestly.
Lightning is. I'll give them Lightning, but yeah, the Rays. I'm gonna give them I'm gonna give them a D plus.
Ooh. First of all, since I know you've lived in Florida the last couple of years, I'm just holding this in my lap. What are your thoughts on pub subs? Off topic, but I gotta ask.
Yeah, I don't mind them. But they're by far better than like Subway or Jimmy John's or anything like that. If I'm going to Publix, I'm probably getting like the chicken tenders and mac and cheese and the warm stuff next to like the sandwich station. Those are pretty good.
That's what's on it.
Yeah, I like Publix. That's cool. But yeah, I like Publix. It's just a lot of the people that make the sandwiches don't know how to do it for their lives.
No, they try to cheat you as much as possible. But if you ask them to put more on there, they're not mean workers by any means. They're probably the closest thing to Chick-fil-A in the service industry. I don't know, one of them at least. Where if you ask them for extra, they're like, okay, sure. But I had to ask you that real quickly regarding the Rays, the Zach Eflin contract. English. The Zach Eflin contract. There we go. Is the largest in Rays history. Believe it or not. And if you're a guy like that Tampa is signing, that's a good thing. That means they see something in you. That means they think they can work with you, even if you're just going to be a 5 and dive guy. Like, honestly, this might be the best Rays team they've had since that 2020 run. And yeah, I mean, they kind of had to cast away with some of the dead water, like the older Kevin Kiermaier. They got rid of Brett Phillips. Baseball's fun during the season. Ryan Yarbrough just hasn't been up to standards. But if you look at their baseball savant projected rotation and bullpen, like there's some guys in there you haven't heard of. And if you haven't heard of it, that's a scary thing for Tampa, because that's what we were all like with guys like Peter Fairbanks, with Chargoy, with Rasmussen, and it just means they got more of it. So I'm going to give it a B, just because they spent money this offseason, and I think they improved. They were able to get Yandy Diaz, I'm pretty sure, to an extension. They like him. Wander Franco should be coming back healthy and be out of that sophomore slump. They cut meat with G-Man Choi. But yeah, I mean, this is a team you can't count them out. They might miss the playoffs, but if they do, it'll be very close. They're going to be over 500, that's for sure. So I'm going to give them a B, just because I'm so proud of them for spending and giving out the largest contract they ever have in Tampa Bay Rays history. I think that's completely worth it. Well, Gio, if you're still in the chat, this is your time. He said earlier, just a reminder for the viewers that have just now joined us, later this week we'll be doing all the National League teams, so you guys make sure to come support for that. Gio, of course, about an hour ago said the best off seasons in the American League were the Blue Jays and the Rangers. And how funny is it that the last two teams alphabetically are the Rangers and the Blue Jays? So we'll start it off. I'll go with the Rangers, and you can give the updates on the Blue Jays in a little bit if you want, Hayden. They basically added a whole starting rotation. You know, they had guys like Dane Dunning, Kumar Rocker, and Jack Leiter are probably about a year away. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them made a major league impact by the end of the season. They got Jaco DeRizzi in a swap trade with the Braves. They were able to give Martin Perez's qualifying offer, kept him around. Took a flyer on Andrew Heaney. Looks a little bit more like an Angels Andrew Heaney than what the Dodgers were working with him at the beginning of the year last year, but we'll see how it works out. They brought in Nathan Eovaldi, and of course the big man, Hayden's former boy from Stetson University, Jacob deGrom. I'm sure the Rangers fans are hoping that he's going to be throwing in a day or two, because Hayden and I talked on the last show. He had that first little nag injury, which is supposedly only 4 or 5 days. But that's how it always starts. And as soon as he gets that first or second spring training appearance under his boot healthy, maybe it calmed down a little bit. But it hasn't happened so far yet. They cut meat with Cole Calhoun. Had some good moments for the Rangers in a bridge year last year, but ultimately was not the guy long term. John Gray, they still got. That's a guy that people were kind of forgetting. I think him and Dane Dunning are a little bit overlooked. I think that they're going to get better time in the rotation if an injury happens, or if Jaco DeRizzi I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the bullpen as like a a long reliever this year because he did not look good in Houston, Minnesota, or Atlanta his last 3 stops. So I just don't think he's cut out to be a starter in a team that's clearly trying to win. A team that's already top 10 in payroll. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the Baltimore Orioles of this season, where they're like just outside of making the playoffs. So yeah, I think this is a team that's gonna improve a lot. Simeon and Seager second year. I'm a big fan of Nate Lowe. My friend RJ, if you're listening, he's probably not, but if he is, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna give you guys a B+ all season. That's for sure. Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Rangers definitely were very active spending this offseason nice and early. Like you said, Jacob deGrom, Andrew Heaney, Kobe Allard, and a couple other guys in the mix. I mean, I think the extension of Martin Perez was actually a pretty good move for them. You know, the Rangers right now, I mean, they're just really hoping that their offensive pieces and Marcus Semien and Corey Seager could really ignite and just go on a tear or put up numbers on what they used to in the past. If they could do that, Dolis Garcia could mash some balls. Then, yeah, I mean, offensively, they're a set team. It's just, you know, is their pitching going to do the job? And I mean, right now, I mean, your rotation is really set. You know, when it comes to deGrom, like you said, deGrom's the best pitcher in baseball when he pitches. And I'm gonna jog everyone's memory. I mean, the last time this dude went out there every fifth day and pitched was 2019. 2020, even in the COVID season, he couldn't even pitch every fifth day. 2021, he had a great April, May, and unfortunately was sidelined in June for the rest of the season. And then last year, he really only pitched about 20% of the season, coming in August and September, and really, I guess, kind of just fell apart. You know, in the last week, 2 weeks of Mets playing time in 2022. So, yeah, I mean, I think with deGrom, you know, like I said, with deGrom, I could easily see him going out there, playing, you know, all 6 months, making 25 to 30 starts and winning the AL Cy Young. But I could easily see it going where, you know, it gets delayed, then starts in May, and then is mid, and then jumps around, takes some IL stumps. I could easily see him starting April, May, and then just getting sidelined. So, you know, I really do hope Jacob deGrom can get healthy. I mean, you know, we spoke. It was a big gamble. And, you know, we've seen teams go out there and, you know, gamble. You know, it says it on here, and I'm going to steal it. But, you know, and
it's like a new contract with Toronto.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that. I mean, I'm going to take what it says on here, but it says the Blue Jays took, you know, a very similar approach in the past couple of years. You know, spending big, going all out on Hyun-Jin Ryu, Yusei Kikuchi, and Jose Barrios, and you know, a pretty expensive rotation, and they just couldn't stay healthy at all. And you would hate to see that for the Rangers to really spend big on guys like Jacob deGrom. Andrew Heaney had a good year last year. We'll see, is, you know, he going to be properly rated? So, you know, Rangers, I think they had a good offseason, definitely very aggressive, a lot of risk. But, you know, I think that's good at sometimes. The Rangers, honestly, why not? I'm going to give them an A flat.
Yeah, they have a really good farm system as well. Like, if all these moves don't pan out, some of them are short term, and they'll be able to be bridge signings for guys that are coming up, like the Josh Youngs, like the Jack Leiters of the world, where this team's going to continuously getting better. I'm a really big fan of Leody Taveras. He looks like a beast. Dolis Garcia is like already a 30-year-old, but only, you know, 2 years in the majors with a lot of fresh legs under him. He could probably be a solid outfielder for the next couple of years for sure. I mean, they didn't go sign Semien and Seager last offseason if they wanted to jump forward with this rebuild. And as I said, like, the farm system's not bad at all. So I think they're going to jump the Angels this year, a team that, as we said earlier, is always good on paper. You can never trust them. So I'm going to go, as I said, a B- because I do think ultimately there will be some injury to the rotation. I don't know if it's going to be deGrom, but yeah, they just took too many flyers. Like, John Gray's only a year older. Heaney and Eovaldi had some injury issues last year. deGrom has the last couple years. So yeah, Jake Odorizzi, as I said, has not been good in his last 3 stops in the majors. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if either Leiter or Rocker made some good starts down the stretch for a team that I think both of those guys are probably about a year away. I'd probably lean lighter because he is a year older and has been in the system longer. But I think both of them are in Double A together. They'll probably be in Triple A um, together sooner than later. So yeah, here's the last team of the evening. We kind of talked about them a lot in the last couple of minutes, relaying them to the Rangers. Honestly, this might be my dark horse team. Like this is a team that has to win a playoff series and take a step up. They've been in this stage too long now. The Toronto Blue Jays. Hayden, take it away.
Yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays. As Vlad Jr. said, going into the 2022 season, last year was the trailer, this year's the movie, and that didn't really apply last year. I mean, they made it to the playoffs, but we're first round exits to the Seattle Mariners. So right now, the Blue Jays are hoping. I think they're capable of being a second place team. I could even see them winning the division if they get hot. If the right guys get hot at the right moment. That's a stacked lineup. Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette. They got some great offensive pieces there. I think they only got better this offseason. I think the two big moves that they were able to obtain was in free agency with Chris Bassett and Kevin Kiermaier. Chris Bassett, he's an average starter. He's a typical 3, probably will be a number 3, maybe a 4 for whatever reason in their rotation. Like I said, he's a sub 350 ERA guy, so kind of average. But you know what? He goes out there every day. He goes out there every single game. And, what you saw last year is I think he played 31 games. And he's reliable. He doesn't really have this health risk or any of that stuff. So that's what you'll take. He had a couple starts where he would go out, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, and then he'd have a couple where, maybe they weren't as clean. We saw obviously, the last 2 weeks for them, with the Braves series and the Padres series, he just did not have it at all. So you really hope that he doesn't really get kind of tired, worn out, fatigue, or any of that some sort coming into the later half of the season. But I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think that'll be the issue for Bassett. I think he'll be a phenomenal pitcher for the Blue Jays. And then Kevin Kiermaier, I think it's a great defensive guy. I mean, former Gold Glover. Isn't really going to give you much with the bat, but heck, you'll take it. In terms of subtractions, you lost Ross Stripling. The Blue Jays weren't really getting a whole lot with him. First year to the contract, wasn't really getting much. They kind of just said, forget it. Let's just put you in this long reliever, number 6 starter. Last year, he actually looked somewhat decent. You lost Raimel Tapia.
To the Red Sox in division.
Yeah, not really much to say there. Jackie Bradley Jr., Bradley Zimmer. Okay. Nothing too crazy to say there, I guess. Like I said, you did lose Teoscar Hernandez as well. And they're going to be, paying a little bit of his salary to some extent. You did extend Anthony Bass, right-handed pitcher. I think that was a fair move there. But yeah, right now, I mean, this is a team that has the ambition, has the morale, and they're going to walk in and just, see if they can get ready, if they can make the moves and they can get locked and loaded. So I think I'm going to give them a B-. I think they've could have done a little bit more. But at the end of the day, right now, their lineup's stacked. Their pitching is pretty good. And I think they're one of the better teams in the American League. It just so happens they're in kind of a tough division. But yeah, I'm going to give them a B-.
So, of course, they got John Schneider as their full-time manager now. Charlie Montoya was not cutting it there. Apparently Schneider was really close with all the guys when they came up through Buffalo and their AAA affiliate, and that was really a nice signing, or just a move that needed to happen because it sparked them and they were able to run and give the Yankees pretty much all they could to the end going in. I mean, the Yankees still won the division by 7 or 8 games, but they were winning it by like 23 or 24 games at one point. And with how sluggish the Blue Jays looked for parts of the year, it got pretty close for those standards. I love how much Vlad loves to toy with the Yankee fans a little bit, saying he loves playing against them. They're easy to play against, fun environment. So rivalry that's kind of brewing. Alek Manoah, you're looking to see him build on the year that he had. For the rotation, though, as you said, like Barrios or Hyun-Jin Ryu, one of them has to step back up and be a solid piece to the back half of the rotation. No more of these injured list, stinted, 5+ ERA, near 2 WHIPs. One of those guys has to stabilize the 4 or 5 position. That's needed for a team that wants to win a playoff series because it's time. They've been a couple of years now in this state where the guys are up and they're starting to finally trade some assets here and there to round out the roster. It's this year, otherwise you're behind schedule in Toronto. And yeah, I know they're in a tough division, but hell, so are the Braves, and they want it. So if we can with our city's curse, y'all can do it too. They keep adding to the bullpen every year. Like they got guys like Yimi Garcia, Zach Pop, Anthony Bass. Kind of took some of the Marlins thunder pitching wise, but added Eric Swanson. Like it looks like it's going to be a pretty good bullpen. We've already talked on the rotation. I do like that they were able to extend Bo Bichette for the rest of his arbitration years. Get him under contract for the next couple of years, just kind of in a good spot. Yeah, I don't really think there's a lot. I think Matt Chapman is a free agent after this season, so that'll be a big point for them. They still got Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk. Maybe there's an opportunity where I think they still have one more. Other than Moreno, they had another catcher prospect. If he comes up and has enough thunder, maybe you ship Danny Jansen or Alejandro Kirk, probably Danny Jansen, for another addition at the deadline. They still got Whit Merrifield and Kevin Kiermaier off the bench. Two guys who have had good careers but have not been in the situation the last couple of years where they've been winning, and you've seen their older year stats are kind of going back down the drain a little bit. But I think both of those guys will bounce back and play their roles really well, be excited to be in a winning environment, and I think the Rogers Center is going to be popping all year. I really want to see them have a Yankees run to the wire where this division comes down at the very end, like Dodgers, Giants, like our teams last year. I think it'd be great for baseball. In a division that's really good. Hopefully they live up to it. So yeah, you said you gave them a B-. I'm in the same boat. I'll go B-. But I think that's you said you wanted to be out of here by 8. It looks like we're going to be pretty much right there. Good 90-minute plus show. We thank you guys all for listening. We'll try to come back within less than a week to give the National League side, and Hayden and I will probably put the Braves and the Mets last, so we'll skip over them and put them at the bottom too, if that's okay with you, Hayden. I thought that'd probably be the best idea because otherwise our retention's gonna and as a young podcast you don't want that. But we thank you guys for watching and we hope you guys have a good night. But yeah, come back later this week, National League pod talk, and this next couple pods will afterwards we're going to be talking East previews, Central previews, and the West previews, breaking down all our predictions and ideas and how the season's going to play out. And, of course, we'll have some World Baseball coverage for you guys. We'll talk about the remaining free agents probably once more to give a final update. But, hope you guys enjoy your night. Hayden, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it for me. I appreciate everyone for tuning in to this stream. As always, had a great time summarizing the American League teams offseason. Obviously, next stream, as Blake said, we will be going over the National League offseason team. So that'll definitely be a very intriguing stream. Spring training's here. World Series Baseball Classic starts next week at this time. So
we're back, super pumped. We're back for real.
The year's flying by already. School's almost over. Crazy enough to say. So yeah.
How'd you do on your midterms, by the way? How'd you do on your midterms?
I think I did pretty well. I'm not too worried.
For me, no comment.
That's fair.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. Yeah. But we appreciate you guys joining. We do have to, I think, play this intro or outro once so Mitch and AK don't get mad at us. I'm not the biggest fan of this hardcore sports intro, so sorry if it cringes you guys out. We're gonna play it like the very end of the show. It hurts your ears a little bit. Just beware. But Hayden and I watched it before the show. We'll watch it to end out the night. Here's the quote hardcore sports intro outro. It's whatever, but I think we might as well play it to end shows. Why not? Just for
awesome power of nature, hot excitement of freedom. Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
That's pretty much it. You guys enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you guys